Now, joining us in the studio is our diplomatic editor, Shola Jaisimi. Welcome to AIT Reports.
Thank you.
Shola, you watched the debate. What did you see?
Well, like you said, we stayed up late. Not only me, lots of Nigerians and lots of Americans who were watching the political scene ahead of November stayed up late to watch this debate. You know, Nigerian time, it ended about 3:41 a.m. Now, what did we see? What did I notice? A very interesting one between both men. The first time in almost 70 years that you have, two persons who are seeking the top job meeting one another again. I'm referring to Stephen Adler in 1954 and the man who he ran against in 1952, rather. I'm talking about General Eisenhower. So we're having that pairing now again. Now, on the debate itself, like you heard in that report put together by my colleague, Onyejaku, she raised the points in that report about concerns about President Biden's coherence. He slurred, he slackened, and he sort of, went off pace and off course in pushing his points while responding to things thrown at him by former President Donald Trump, his main challenger of the Republican Party. And moving away from the issues that were raised, concerns are flying within his party that, is this man, who will be 82 just a few days after the election, is he able to follow through on another 4 years? His cognitive skills and his ability was put out there for all Americans to see. But of course, immediately after that debate, President Biden said, look, I was responding to what he called the lies of former President Trump. And President Trump was fact-checked during this debate. It came to the fore that not a few of all the things he said in his own arguments and in his response had questions around it.
In some quarters, they said up to 30 untrue statements.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Most of the things he said, because he forcefully pushed his points forward. And the opportunity for President Biden to respond to them, those who watched it, pundits and analysts have said that President Biden didn't, follow through, debunk those things forcefully, but he allowed them fly.
Okay, as it stands now, is it like, I think they have done a primary.
Yeah, the primaries have settled.
Is it too late for Biden to step down and possibly maybe Kamala Harris run in his stead as the Democratic candidate?
Now, in that report, which was aired a few minutes ago, Kamala Harris, and I also saw her on CNN because she came on live on CNN a few minutes after the debate ended, and she said, look, this is our candidate for this election. So the posers around him stepping down and allowing someone else to come in have been put in the cooler by not a few others. There's a prominent guy in the Democratic Party who is the governor of California, Gary Newsom. He had been touted as a possible candidate to have stood in this election. But he said, no, I'm a supporter of President Biden all the way up until this election. So the Democratic Party itself has not openly said that they will meet President Biden to, step out, drop out of the race. But there are some feelers in different camps of the Democrats that say, look, will we get the American people on our side? Election day is still almost 18 weeks away. So many things are expected to happen between now and then. There's supposed to be a second debate. Whether President Biden will follow through or former President Trump will also be at that debate, we'll be watching the space.
Okay. Before we go, I know the election is still a ways off and there are lots of steps before it, but what's your projection?
Well, I'm a Nigerian, first of all. I don't hold American citizenship and I wouldn't vote in that election. But the issues for the American people to decide are not many. Immigration. Biden's scorecard on handling the southern border crisis is what former President Trump tried to feast on. He said, look, you've let criminals, you've let people who are rapists get into our country. But President Biden said, look, we looked at the policy and we're handling it with firmness, but with a humane approach. That was his response. That's one. The economy, number two. The figures are there. The Americans are not doing as they ought to be doing. Cost of living across the world is affecting not just the US, even here in Nigeria and so many other countries. But President Biden says, look, the measures she has put in place are ensuring that things are a bit stable for the American people. And finally, the issue of abortion also came to the fore. The Supreme Court, the Supreme Court gave a verdict only yesterday, allowing the state of Idaho to put up a measure whereby if the life of a woman is in danger, then abortion can be, performed. Idaho is one of the states that put a total ban on abortion. So American people have the issues that are of concern to them across the political divide. They will take their take on election day.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been Shola Jaisimi, our diplomatic editor. And up next is Sports Track.